Welcome. My name is Dr. Angelika Christie, and I am your show host of the show, Your Radiant Life After 45, a show for women over 45, of 55, of 65 and over, to feel amazing, to get clarity about what they want in their life, what is most important now in their health, in their relationships, in their relationship with themselves and others, and so much more. So today we are going to speak about the blessing and the curse of food availability in wealthy countries. Because let me tell you, it affects all of us, and especially women in the perimenopausal or in the menopausal area and beyond. Well, beyond menopause is a time when what we eat and how often we eat and how much we eat definitely affects us even more than when we were younger, more than when we were super active, right? Because we are also slowing down a little bit. And that brings your metabolism down. And there is just so much food available. I want to share with you my opinion and my personal experience regarding how, well, my personal experience. And of course, since I'm a naturopathic doctor, I study all of this. I have studied all of this for a very, very, very long time. And when I was only 5 years old, my mother told me, both of my parents told me that I used to say, is this healthy? I have no idea. So I think my desire to be in harmony with nature, to be energetic and healthy probably was already in my cradle, or in my DNA rather. Okay, so that's why I want to share not only my what I have studied as a naturopathic doctor and nutritionist, but also my personal experience regarding how the unlimited availability of food around the clock has become a curse to some of us, to some people, rather than a blessing. And let me ask you, because this has always bothered me, doesn't it feel horrific that millions of people worldwide go hungry and thousands even die of hunger each day, while the so-called civilized world, the rich countries, the economically wealthy countries, throw away thousands of tons of fresh and perfectly fine food? Just think of what restaurants throw away because of the law, what they throw away on a daily basis. Now think about what foods you throw away, like what you did not eat in the meal. Do you put it away for later, or do you discard it in the garbage? Or maybe you have bought too much and they're last, because let me tell you, when you're hungry, there is a tendency when you go food shopping that you buy more than you need. But anyway, sometimes we just buy too much and the food just starts to get, you know, not so fresh anymore. I don't even want to say bad, because then you definitely need to throw it out. But sometimes we throw it even out because it doesn't look perfect anymore, or it's getting beyond the expiration date. So in your mind's eye, how much food would that be in a week for you that you throw away? How much would it be in a month? How much would it be in a year? How many people could that food have fed? I know. Take a deep breath. I know, because when I did this calculation the first time, it rather shocked me. And I am not even somebody who carelessly or by habit throws food away. Actually, on the contrary, I have this strange, people say, some say strange, I think it's just unique, or it's just my way and my ability to use almost everything that I put in my refrigerator. And I don't go in the food store shopping after what meal I want to create. I just do buy a variety of fresh produce and what I need, and then it's in my fridge. And I'm quite creative without planning ahead. It comes kind of spontaneously to me. It comes natural to me. That means that I don't cook from cookbooks. Well, unless I bake. When I bake, which is rather rare, you know, when you bake, you need really very correct measurements. Otherwise, you end up with something entirely different. And let me tell you, usually not a pretty result. But with other food, it is different. My creativity is kind of endless there. And not many times my meals look the same or taste the same. That's just my special ability to always create something different, something new. And my husband likes it. And since I am a post-Second World War child, and my mother was afraid that I would starve because the food was so scarce then, right after the Second World War, I probably have this natural desire to value food and really hardly ever throw any food away. But now let's discuss some facts about the overabundance of food in our modern world today and what it has done in the last 80 years, maybe the last 2 generations. Post-World War II, you would hardly see overweight or obese people. Unless they had a metabolic disease, that is always an exception. Or any kind of disease, some kind of condition. Today, more than half of the population in the United States and other similar countries are overweight. And even there's a growing obese population that comes solely from wrong eating habits, which is driven by the constant availability of food and other junk items that are eaten, that are classified as food, but do not feed the body other than deliver empty calories that add unnecessary fat deposits. Yes. And adding to that constant eating comes a kind of sedentary lifestyle, where so many people now sit most of the day rather than being physically active. And I mean, we know that the availability of entertainment at the click of the button only adds to the availability of food at any moment of the day, right? You open the fridge, you get your food, or you open your cupboard, you pull out the popcorn or the candies or the cookies or whatever junk food there may be. And then you sit down on your couch and maybe watch TV or something like that. Food is not delivered as it used to be for millions of years ago. Not even how it used to be delivered a few hundred years ago, where you would eat what grew in your country or in the region where you grew up. If you grew up in a country far north in our hemisphere, because north for us, for where I live, up to the equator, is the winter time, while on the southern part, beyond the south of the equator, of course, it's reversed. So take that into consideration. But if you were in the far north, how I see it from my place, where fruits were really sparse and the summers were kind of short. You would have a diet containing mostly of fatty fish and wild game and things like that. But if you lived in the southern regions with evergreen forests and ever warm temperatures, where I live now in the Bahamas, for example, but in other regions as well, you would have an abundance of all foods, including tropical fruit. And if you would live in the temperate climate, like where I grew up in Germany, well, Germany had certain foods, including a large variety of fruits in the summer and other more hardy vegetables and other things, potatoes and underground vegetables in the wintertime. And of course, always game in the forest. And when farming started about, I believe, I'm not too sure, but I think it was about 1,000 years ago. And of course, that started all over the world. Food became already much more available. And it was real food, nothing packaged and processed. I'm talking about the farming of natural foods. Now compare this with what we have today. Overproduction in the industrial countries and a lack of food in the underdeveloped countries. Yes or yes? But the worst is that what our bodies need and recognize as food, which means what is live food, it's when the building blocks and enzymes are intact to build new and healthy cells and nourish the body and give it energy, strength, and resilience and protect it, you know, an intact and strong immune system. But this doesn't seem to be the norm anymore. Today, we are overwhelmed with the marketing of non-food items. Well, I mean, they call it food, but I see everything that you find on shelves in the inner part of your food store as a non-food item. Well, there are some exceptions when it comes to grains and other dried foods like beans and other things, but those are the exceptions. But even canned food, I don't count into real food items, not in my opinion, because what is in there is all processed and has no live enzymes anymore. It's practically dead food that is altered to add the taste by adding preservatives. Or at best, even if there are no preservatives, it's usually a lot of salt because that's a natural preservative. And then they add sugar to offset the taste. You see? And this takes me to sugar. Almost everything that you find on shelves in your food store on the inside is practically sugar, even when it doesn't look like real sugar, but is labeled as, for example, cereals in boxes, refined flour, grains, and almost everything that is packaged, pasta, everything that's packaged and has a long shelf life is really turns into sugar in your body after it is digested and processed by your organs, especially the liver and your pancreas. I believe we are drowning in sugar. I don't know the amounts yet, but the sugar spikes, how much sugar was used like 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even just 20 years, 20 years ago was already high, but it's still climbing. Have you ever tried to stay away from all items that contain sugar? Whether there were actually sugary items or otherwise that turn into sugar in your body, as I said, all simple carbohydrates. It's really an interesting exercise if you have never done this. It makes you aware of how many items you eat that either contain sugar or are processed into sugar in your body. I have done this exercise a few times actually, because I became so aware of it. And then I would stay away from or eliminate all of those items for either a day or up to a full week. You know what that means? It means eliminating not only all packaged goods and snacks, but even fruits, even fresh fruits, everything that contains sugar, right? Fruits, all fruit juices. Well, I never really drink fruit juices. All alcohol. That was a little bit hard for me because I love my glass of red wine and now and then a scotch in the afternoon. But that turns into sugar too, so that had to be eliminated. Even my dry wines and all simple carbohydrates like pasta, no more pasta, no rice, no cereal, no desserts, no bread. Most other grains were off. That's tough, but it's so good to do that exercise. You may ask, what is left to eat? A lot. You know, I thought what is left to eat, but really when I made a list, there is a lot that's left to eat, like all animal proteins, all good fats like butter, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, and some more. Not the vegetable oils. No, they are not good. But anyway, that's a whole thing by itself. I don't want to go into that. But let me tell you, eggs are a wonderful, simple, yet nutritious, complete protein. So rather than having cereal in the morning, which turns into sugar, which is practically mostly sugar, having eggs, however you want it, like scrambled eggs or fried eggs or poached eggs or boiled eggs, are a much better choice. And they keep you satiate and satisfied for much longer than any simple carbohydrates, which make you hungry after an hour and a half or 2 hours latest. So this brings me to a part of this episode that I wanted to discuss with you as well. I am sure that you have heard about this and maybe even tried it out. Or maybe it is already a part of your eating habits. And what I am talking about now here, what I mean by this is fasting. Yes, fasting. I know. Fasting kind of sounds scary. So many people say, I cannot fast. If I wake up in the morning and I don't eat something, I feel fainty. I feel I don't have energy. That's a myth. It's just that this is what you are used to. And of course, you train your body to do anything, and your body gets used to wanting certain things in a way. And let me tell you, the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you want. It becomes an addiction. And so it can also become an addiction to want to eat first thing in the morning. Now think about it. Our bodies are ancient, right? Did our ancestors wake up and eat? I don't think so. I mean, there was no refrigeration, and they probably had more important things to do than eat first thing in the morning. They probably had to tend to a lot of things, and the men get ready to go out to hunt for food. And the women maybe go out to gather berries and herbs and other edible food items. So fasting They didn't see it as fasting. It was just a natural rhythm of life that in our overabundant economies and societies, we have lost that feeling for it. That's why fasting sounds scary to most people. When they think about fasting, hunger comes to mind. And who wants to be hungry, right? And yet, I don't know about you, if you are in one of these traditions, but so many traditions incorporate days or even whole periods of days, sometimes weeks, sometimes even a whole month of fasting into their disciplines. Well, for many religion, it is part of their faith, of their belief. And I remember, I have never done this. I've never fasted for a whole month or so. But I remember when I was a child and teenager, kind of on the cusp there, between 11 and 15, because I was in a boarding school that was part of a Catholic nunnery, the mother house of the Ursuline nuns. We were not trained to become nuns, but they had a very good educational system. And my parents put myself and my sister into this boarding school. It was tough, let me tell you, it was no fun. I felt it was a prison. But apart from daily church services that we had to attend, there was this one day a week, I think it was a Friday, I'm pretty sure it was a Friday, where we were fasting, not going totally without food, but we had only very limited and simple foods, definitely no meat, no fish, no animal protein, no eggs, or any kind of something that was really satisfying. And of course, no desserts. But when you eat less, here's what happens. Your mind actually gets more acute. It sharpens. Therefore, in many spiritual traditions, there is a period of less food and more prayer, more meditation, or contemplation. There is also more gratitude for the food you eat. Especially after a period of fasting, you really start to appreciate food by itself and then the taste of food. And when you just stay away from sugar, oh my God, the next time you put something sugary in your mouth, you think it is, oh my God, it's too much, because you resensitize your taste buds, which is good because they were desensitized by so much of the sugary stuff. And then there is also more gratitude for the food you eat when you stay away or when you fast. And often eating is done in silence. I found that when I went into a retreat, to a yoga retreat, and I found that very beautiful, very, very deeply satisfying. In other traditions, like, for example, I remember especially vividly how when I was in France, eating was a social event with long tables, very often outside, where very often strangers would just be asked to join. They just came and they were asked to join. And meals would last for many hours. And there's something beautiful about that, to share food and don't rush through it. While in the United States, food is consumed, excuse me, food is consumed not only in much larger amounts per setting, but also in the shortest time possible. You know, when you go to a restaurant, especially those big ones, those chain restaurants where the portions are so big you could feed a family with it. Yeah, I don't want to say names now. Some names come to mind, but of course this is unhealthy, and they want you to eat fast to get out of the door so they can bring others in to, that's their business. And they get more and more, they get a big business because they serve big portions of food, but it's unhealthy. So due to the overconsumption of food, and especially sugar-laden junk food, the United States of America, while being one of the wealthiest countries in the world, is also one of the sickest. Its population is mostly overweight and ridden with preventable diseases like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's is on the rise, and many other degenerative diseases. They are all connected to diet, to the food that is consumed. I recently read a statistic that said that 75% of all pharmaceuticals, drugs, pharmaceutical prescription drugs are sold and consumed in the United States of America, 75% worldwide. And the health of the population in the United States is not even among the top 20 countries in the world. It actually, I looked it up, it rates number 35 with the highest rate of so-called health care, which I believe should really be called sick care, because what is still called, it's shifting a little bit, what is still called health care is really prescription drugs. And this is a very scary scenario. I believe, and it has been demonstrated as a fact many times and in many scientific studies, that overconsumption of food and too much sugar are the culprits of this sad statistic. Sugar is actually poison. Yes, poison to the body. We get natural sugar in so many foods, but the amount of sugar we eat in junk food and simple carbohydrates adds up to becoming poisonous. In addition, it's also a lack of exercise that makes Americans or people in highly civilized countries so sick. But I'm talking about food and non-food in this episode, not about exercise. We maybe talk about this another time. Okay. I want to talk about intermittent fasting, but since we are running out of time for today's episode, I will leave that for next week. I want to, where I will share what I know and my own experience with intermittent fasting and the ketonic diet, the keto diet. Yes? Okay. So I believe that this is an important subject. So please join me next week. And I am so happy that you joined me in this episode and that you spent your precious time with me, because your time is precious, as is mine. But I hope that you got some golden nuggets out of that, some thinking about, and maybe create some changes. Yes, that would be the best or the best results from this episode that you can do for you. And that can give me a little bit of a satisfaction, because I want to share tips that really make a difference in your life, that elevate your health, that elevate your self-confidence that elevate your entire life. Yes? Okay, so come back next time when we go into what fasting can look like. And this is it for today. Bye-bye for now.